Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. This is Daybreak, and we thank you for your company. The hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. Virtually with us is Patricia Andao. She's a researcher. Also with us, Dr. Bashir Isaac, member of the Secretariat formed as part of the task force to look at gender-based violence from the Ministry of Health. Dr. Nancy Barasa is the chairperson of that task force, and Rehema Jaldes is the chairperson of the National Gender and Equality Commission. Thanks for staying with us, gentlemen and ladies. Patricia, to you then, as we focus on this crisis and the numbers that you had given us and we had broken out for our viewers, is another crisis brewing beneath what we are discussing of men and cases around also gender-based violence affecting men?
I want to rewind back to a comment that was previously made about, the fact that this is something that has been happening all along. I just want to make it very clear so that we don't belittle this issue, that the numbers we're talking about in 2024 have doubled. And in this double number, we're not counting anything that is not covered by Kenya law reports or is not covered by the media. So who knows, perhaps it's tripling. So I think it's important for us to recognize the significant rise in cases when it comes to the killing of women. So something has been wrong all along, but it's getting worse. And the type of murders being committed are even becoming more gruesome. We are seeing beheadings, we are seeing people being killed with acid, we are seeing a lot of dismembering of bodies. It's becoming worse. So I just want to revert back to the comment that was made and make it very clear that no, it is not business as usual. There is a serious problem here and we need to address it. On the issue of the men, definitely, I mean, when you talk to young men, I do research all across the country, and one thing that is significantly affecting them is unemployment. So even before we talk about what is it we can do for these men at the point of violence, there are a lot of things that are triggering men, and this does not in any way justify the actions that they are taking, but there are things that the government can action to make sure that the society is less stressed. This is a stressed society. So can we find a way for these people to get jobs and reduce the pressure that they have that ends up being taken out to the people closest to them in the home? In terms of men being part of the conversation, I really applaud that point because what we're seeing is that in several of the femicide forums, I'm happy to see government being more and more involved because, we've been talking about this for years. We haven't been seeing them. So I'm so happy to see them becoming more and more involved and putting a working group together. But yes, definitely men need to be a part of the conversation because this is not a female problem. This is a male and female problem. And then
how does your research, Patricia, then focus on also the other component? Because of the risk of the weight tilting towards the female gender, and how then do you focus as well and break down the numbers on violence against men as well?
Well, I think like it was said previously, of course, our database focuses on violence against women and murders against women. Reason being because a lot of women are killed by men. When it looks at the total number of, let me focus on murders in the country, more men are killed than women in the country. But when you look at the circumstances in which men are killed, it is not usually circumstances dealing with things related to their gender. Most of the time, most of the cases have to do with like business disagreements, things like that. And most of the time, it's a man killing a man. When it comes to violence, the reason why it's very hard to get concrete data on how many men are experiencing domestic violence is, like was said earlier, men do not tend to report these things. So how that is happening, if that is drastically increasing, we stand to get clarity on that because, if they're not reporting it in the police stations, which, no one else gets to pick it up, then it's very hard to understand how intense that problem is in our society. But I just wanted to also mention, because you talked about social media and the involvement of men in this issue, I think it's important for us to involve manospheres. And what do I mean by manospheres? I mean the likes of Amerix, who have become basically a mentorship platform for men, and a lot of what he says is, I'm teaching men to be men again. And it's so important for people like that who have grown such a large audience, and a lot of young men look up to people like Amerix, to spread the message that masculinity has to do with how well you can protect a woman, how safe a woman feels in your presence, as opposed to inflicting authority and power over her.
Thank you. And Dr. Bashir, coming to you. The Presidential Advisor on Women Affairs joins us. Good morning, Harriet Chigai.
Good morning.
Lovely having you here on the broadcast.
Thank you.
And so timely is this discussion that it suits also your docket, because the President has your ear on this subject. Dr. Bashir, then, how do you address these intersecting vulnerabilities that face women and girls from the societal perspective, given now that the women leaders are involved, the ministry is involved, commissions are involved, a task force is there, a presidential advisor is here. How then do you approach this from the intersecting vulnerabilities that are there?
Thank you, Ayub. First of all, I must appreciate and say that this is the beginning of our journey. We have all along been dealing with piecemeal measures, everybody from its own space, but not a well-coordinated, well-choreographed, a comprehensive approach to this issue, this menace. And now that we have structures in place, I want to believe that our team, the technical working group that has been put into place by the President, is going to provide the strategies and the evidences that we require to make those policy changes. The President, as the leader of the country, has made his decision. And therefore, once we have our report and our recommendations, the decision to implement and the powers to implement will be with him. And behind us, leading us from the front, the society now will decide as a country. But this discourse has to go to what is called the fireplace. People should be able to discuss this thing at the fireplace and in the family. And we need everybody. The religious society, sometimes which makes the patriarchal decision-making. There are a lot of stakeholders that are outside government and outside the mainstream society, which have a lot of power. We may go and prescribe some things that will be negated. And if a society does not accept and does not come on board, it will be very difficult. And we don't want altercations. It's not an issue of power against another power. It's the issue of us being able to have a proper strategy which involves everybody so that we move this thing as a community and a society. And it begins from the family. So this task force, I think, has a huge task in terms of, first of all, getting to know the depth of the issues. There is a lot that is not known. Even the femicide and the GBVs that we are, there is more that is not reported than what is reported. And what is making this reporting not happen? It's because of the stigmatization, because of the inability or the lesser gender economic imbalance. And even if you empower now the female folk or the female folk,
we have another crisis.
There's another crisis. What happens now? Maybe a mother was killed, and then you jail the father. What happens to the children? These are things we need to approach with a very sober mind, not defensive or taking persecution or taking the law into our hands. We must solve our problems from the root cause, which is a societal, and it's a stressed society. Most of them could be because of economic issues for now, but even before economic issues, there are cultural issues that are deep-seated and deep-rooted that we need to. It will take us time, but a journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step.
Yeah, and Harriet, how important is this journey, which is beginning with Dr. Baraza's assumption of, as the chair of that very significant task force, and what do you think will be the outcome, given the topic we are discussing today, which is femicide, but otherwise also an underreported cases of men who are also faced with gender-based violence?
Thank you very much, Abdel Kadir, for having us here. This is very significant to this country, and it's very, very important. We have been here in this studio discussing GBV, discussing femicide for the last 1.5 years. And you'll agree with me that every time we came here, the first question you all asked is whether the president listens. And you can see the president has led from the front. And that is the most important thing that this country has achieved. I also wish to say that GBV and femicide, as you can see, and as my colleagues have said, it is not a light issue. One life lost is one too many. And if for the first time in the history of this country, everybody has agreed on one thing, that we must all end GBV. So for me, that is a big milestone, because if you look at the committee that the president has put in place, it has near everybody. A committee of about 45 people, drawn from different sectors. We have the representation from the church, we have the representation from civil society, we have Wangu Kanja Foundation, which deals with victims. We have the vice chair, who's the CEO of GVRC at Nairobi Women's Hospital. And already you can see, and the chair can tell you, we have received phone calls. Everybody wants to participate. The house, though, can be too big and too small at the same time, because you cannot accommodate everybody. But everybody can contribute to the discussion and to what is going on. Ngek is already the chair of Ngek. Ngek is well represented. The CEO of Ngek is seated in the committee. So what this tells me is that a lot has been going on. Everybody has been doing something around women and children. But for the first time now, we have a centralized coordination where each and every organization can now they can table their issues, they can bring their ideas, and we can have one common report that can drive the issues of GBV and femicide forward.
And, okay, please finish.
Yeah, so in terms of gaps that are there, GBV and femicide is not something that you can get hold of. I've been saying, when you look at the femicide cases in the last 2 years, now we should be recording about 123. We were at 73, but now we have added other numbers in the last 3 months. You will agree with me that 4 out of 5 reported cases is intimate partner violence. When you look at the GBV in sports and the femicide that took place in sports, near 99.99% is intimate partner violence. What does that tell us? It tells us that issues of GBV and femicide is happening in the safe spaces that all these women, children, and even men now, because now men are coming out to report GBV. It's happening within our most comfort zones. It's happening between partners where children and women want to call those spaces as safe spaces. So what does that tell us? It tells us that the societal frog is completely broken. If you look at the case that happened last week, where you find it's someone's boyfriend or husband, you chop up a woman and you carry them even in a rucksack and you're walking around. What does that tell you? There's some element of mental health.
Okay.
No normal human being can kill somebody, chop them into pieces like meat, and you're walking freely and like nothing happened. So this is very important, and I can tell you for a fact, from where I sit in my office, it's the most important thing that has happened in this administration.
Thank you.
Because we have to take care of the women and children.
Okay. Dr. Baraza, certainly then we are seeing a well-represented outlook of your task force, more than 42. How then would you establish the required communication channel with, not to, so that you hear them, they hear you, and overcome the certainly very evident different cultures and the norms that we prescribe to as a society?
Before I come to that question, let me comment on what our good researcher has said. By talking about the history of GBV and femicide as a phenomenon that has actually been going on, is not to demean the fact that the increasing numbers is horrific. It's terrible. I think I talked about it in the context that probably the strategies to address GBV and femicide have not been appropriate. That was the context. But actually to appreciate the fact that the menace it has increased in volume and in horrific numbers. So maybe strategies need to change. Had we had proper strategies from the beginning, had we had the government as the primary duty bearer to the safety and security of women and men and children, probably we would have had better strategies. But as Waziri says, I think this is a beginning. The government is accepting and acknowledging its responsibility as the primary duty bearer to the security of the people of Kenya, including women and girls. Now, coming to your question, I don't know if it is the numbers that are puzzling you or how we shall work.
Yeah, of course, given that you have to involve religious leaders, elders, boys, men, women themselves, I mean, how then will you establish that communication channel?
I think that is easy. We are having a meeting, in fact, after this show. We are going now to work on modalities on how we are going to bring everybody together. I think that is easy. I worked at CKRC. We reached every Kenyan of all cultures, all, whether men or women, all people in far-flung places. It shouldn't be difficult. We are going to form committees. We are going to agree on the approach that we are going to use, but certainly our goal is to make sure that we involve everybody, and we are calling upon everybody to see this initiative as their home, as the home for everybody, and give us suggestions on how best we can reach everybody, because we want everybody to participate. And if I may comment on violence against men, it is also there. It has existed. And it was on the basis of GBV that we enacted the Protection from Domestic Violence Act of 2015, which is meant to benefit both men and women and others, you know, who are suffering from the GBV. We have shelters are envisaged in that law, that the government should be able to set up shelters. But as to whether these initiatives are benefiting Kenyans is the question. Are men reporting? Men don't report. Men have been beaten up, they have been injured. And when they try to go to report the violence, they are dismissed. It's like they are embarrassing the male folk.
Yeah.
You are embarrassing us. I mean, this is for... Yeah, and Usilie, you are a man. And we know of so many cases. So these men are not benefiting from the law. So is the law the answer? Probably not. So that is why the task of this initiative is to find out what other means. Is there a law beyond law that we can look at? What is the role of culture? Culture, law, religion, they all fight for space in society. They all regulate society. How best can we harness all of them? How best can we talk about negative aspects of each? Okay. So that we come up with good solutions. Yeah. But as to reaching out to Kenyans, we shall do that. And Kenyans, we are located at KICC. Walk there and tell us how best we can reach you and tackle this problem. Okay.
And Chairperson, then is the coining around the conversation in regards to femicide, of course it's right, given the cases that we have had, but your commissioner suddenly last year reported in your first submissions also is concerned about men who are not speaking out. And the advisor to the president pointed out that in cases where then the man, as also put by Daktari here, doesn't report, the the building up of that tension, which then leads to a mental case where he doesn't care, then his own mechanism to get justice is to institute violence against his partner, dismember her body, carry her in a bag as if everything is normal. Are we looking at another crisis in focusing on this subject of femicide, in as much as it's also very relevant and significant to have it?
Yes, I want to agree with my colleagues that it is indeed a crisis that is taking so many forms. It is taking a cultural form, it is taking a societal form. In it, there is issues of mental health. And from where I sit, I want to maybe make a suggestion that, first of all, we have to have a coordinated approach, like was said earlier by Dr. Bashir. What do I mean by coordinated approach? You will realize there are so many players in this gender agenda, and we do not have a specific institution that is clearly mandated to do a report, to ensure enforcement. For example, I'll give you a case. If you want to report a corruption case, for example, today, you will walk into EACC and you will report. And in collaboration with other stakeholders, then EACC will take a lead. If you want to prosecute somebody, you will straight go to judiciary. But in these issues of gender-based violence, there are so many players from the grassroots. There are NGOs, civil society. Then at the end of the day, it is like the next person will expect the other person to take up the agenda. Therefore, I feel like the agenda is disappearing. So as they sit down to interrogate, to understand what are the gaps, I want to propose that is one aspect that needs to be looked at. For example, a lot of people out there will say that National Gender and Equality Commission is about women. National gender is not about women. National gender is about gender, and gender is both male and female. We have other roles to look at issues of marginalized communities, minorities, people with disabilities. Of course, women is also part of our agenda, but it is not the core agenda. Therefore, I think the committee also need to look at that space. Who exactly is handling, is responsible? And number two, I am proposing accountability. This is an issue whereby we are looking at multi-sectorial approach from judiciary, from socio-economical, including even political goodwill. Okay? Are we committed to ensuring that we address this matter, which we are told is historic, but it is coming up in another new form? The issues of mental issue, as I had put earlier, actually is the main driver. To me, lack of economic opportunities, the male feeling that the women are over-empowered, and listening to them. You know, I told you we're in 6 counties over the weekend. Listening to them, men are telling you, look, we allowed the men to speak to each other with our commissioners and our male staff. And they are saying, look, women cry, women shout, women go to their brothers, their uncles. Where do we go to? You know, women have the youth, the women fund. They have the affirmative action from the women reps. What do we have as men to empower us? So when they get back home, they are dealing with a situation where in their mind, they already have a wife in the house who is quite empowered, quote unquote. You know, vis-a-vis a man who is struggling, you know, to put food on the table. The food is not there, and he is given a demeaning word. I am not putting a woman gender on defense, but I am just trying to, you know, give analysis of how this thing is boiling up. Okay. Therefore, we are seeking for element of accountability. Of course, I cannot overemphasize the issues played by society, the religious community, and above all, public education and awareness. Okay.
And Harriet, amongst all these stakeholders, one unit is certainly important, the family unit. I mean, how is this then certainly contributing to this, given the rate of divorce that we had seen, a generation that does not view marriage as institutional, looking at how material the society is becoming, looking at the family unit from money perspective. I mean, how then do we bolden up the institution of marriage and the family unit, which is the most important and nucleus at the foundation of this discussion?
Well, very good question. The one most important thing that you'll know, even as we bring up children, a child learns by hearing, seeing, and the environment where they grow up. So if the family unit is full of violence, and we have seen it, we have seen how families are unable to hold the violence within homes. We have seen how we project anger towards children. We have seen how we break boys in the name of making young men to be, young boys to be men. We've seen how fathers kick around their sons, you know. So what kind of environment are children growing? We have seen how we mutilate children. You know, a child is walking to school, you find the child, you kick the child around, we take the child, we go and kill children. So the environment where these children are growing is very volatile, starting from homes to the community to school, and then where is the church? Because the church then becomes the fulcrum of holding the marriages together. And this is where now we actually need the church, because the church marries couples. Is there a follow-up plan? Is there a mediation and accountability platform for how these people live, you know? Again, the family setup, you know, now we have a narcissistic way of dealing with married women in homes, you know. You find that you're married, the home where you're married is very volatile. There is no psychosocial support. If you're a child who comes from an orphaned home, you don't have a mother to run to or a parent to run to, you're left alone as a woman within a home. So you find we also have families where they are very narcissistic, they're very negative. If they want to get hold of Jaldesa here for purposes of illustration purposes, they really beat her up, you know. And the society has become very volatile. Look around ourselves. Everybody is very angered. You know, one small, honest mistake, people want to mold you. They want to eat you up. They want to dissect you into pieces and show you where you really belong. And that is the society these children are living in. We are living in a very fragmented society, a torn society. It is very negative. Social media is not helping at all. When you look at AI and the impact of AI, and now we have technology-assisted GBV, you know, it is one thing for us as political leaders to fight in one quarter and take my photo, put a naked caricature on it, and post it to demean me. But then we are forgetting that the ripple effect of this reckless behavior within even our leadership cycle is trickling down to the children that we are bringing up. Abdul Kadir, imagine today you want to run for office and someone puts you in a coffin, or someone puts a naked caricature of yourself with all manner of demeaning factions on it. You get married 10 years down the line, your son will come and ask you, you know, Dad, I have stumbled upon something, but I know it is not true. What are we doing to this society? Okay. And you know, these things look like fun now, but we actually need to put measures to ensure that we manage the content that is going out there. When you look also within the family setup, and this one is very important, and the judiciary and the police also need to come close. We have the children's court, and this I say with a lot of confidence. That court needs to rethink how they're handling children's matters. All right. And they are actually increasing, because the wheels of justice is just not one fraction of it. We have the police who do the investigations. We have the judiciary. We have DPP. So when we look at the laws that need to be reviewed and the gaps within those laws, we have to look at all these institutions and see where are the gaps and what needs to be addressed. Personally, there's one thing I keep saying. Parents cannot be in court fighting who's going to pay school fees for their child. Okay. Of anything.
It's common sense?
It's It's common sense. You give birth to a child, take care of it.
Okay.
You know, and I like my community where I come from, no matter how many children you bring, the family will never ask you whose child is this. They will embrace the child and take care of the child. But now we have our young men fathers who don't want to take care of their own children, and they come up with all manner of excuses. These are the same children that you want them to call you a father and affirm you. And sons, my men friends tell me, there are two things a young boy wants to be, either to be a reflection of his father or not. So are we breeding monsters in this country, or we are culturing children to be good citizens going forward? Right. So there are some reckless things we do, but it has a serious ripple effects for these young men and young girls as they go on.
And Patricia, then, I'm looking at the number of convictions in the last 5 years. 12 in 2020, 11 in 2021, 17 2022, 16 2023, and 35 2024. And is this commensurate with the reported cases that we have just highlighted at the beginning of this broadcast?
It doesn't match the exact numbers, because when you look at court data, it depends on who submits their data publicly to the Kenya Law Reports, which a lot of magistrate courts don't. So only for the courts that have submitted the data, that's what you have. So it's, you know, the same courts that we've looked at from 2016 to 2024, and seeing that increase in convictions, it is an indication of progress, at least on the judiciary side. You know, when we see even the judiciary mentioning things like femicide, for example, there's a prosecutor in John Matara's case who talked about not granting bail because of the rising cases of femicide, and even referenced like the movements that have been there nationally, and he ended up being denied bail. Or, you know, in the case of Kerubo, where the prosecutor mentioned that the sentencing, that as the judge is considering the sentencing for the perpetrator, that they should consider, you know, the societal crisis, and they pointed towards femicide. So there has been a recognition from the institution on that front. I do think there are bottlenecks, because when we look at the cases, the number of acquittals, there are way more convictions than acquittals, but when we look at the acquittals, a lot of it is the challenge there comes with police investigation. So you'll find that, you know, there was not sufficient evidence, you know, for the court to be able to convict the suspect. So a lot of effort needs to be made on the police front. They need to be given the resources, and they also need to be given the directive to take these cases seriously and to collect as much evidence as possible.
So is that an attribution to then cases where there is no proper following up on these cases when reported, and the nature of the investigations as a contributory factor to why we have no match for the number of convictions vis-a-vis the number of the cases reported?
It is part of the reason. Yeah, it is part of the reason. Sometimes you also find witnesses are a problem. So you'll find there are cases where witnesses did not appear, or, you know, witnesses were you know, disappeared at some point, no longer wanted to be a part of the case. So it's very hard to make a case. It's part of the problem is the witnesses, but then also there's a clear police issue also. At least I can only speak from like the cases of acquittals that we've seen in the data, that there's a clear case that if the investigations are not carried out well, then justice will not be given for these cases.
And Dr. Bashir, is, as part of the Secretariat, will your mandate then include also looking at and finding answers to the unequal power relations, the nature of our households in today's modern society, where the man feels the woman is so over-empowered, he has no economic muscle to come to fulfill his mandate, as to how certainly we have been brought up that the man has to take care of the woman and meet the bills of the house, yet economically he may not. So how does this unequal power relations at the household level also be addressed from the task force's perspective?
Thank you, Ayub. The task force has a very clearly outlined terms of reference, and it is very comprehensive. I want to say, first of all, before I answer your question, is that what we're looking forward is a serene society, a society where everybody is comfortable and happy with themselves. The issue of bringing a policeman to manage every family. It's not a reality. So the legal hurdles that we have, even the laws that we form, are formed with a mindset in mind, what those people are thinking at that time. And it may not be comprehensive. And that's why it is a living document and we have to review as we move on. The society is on transition. And whatever is happening in social media is whatever has been happening before, but is now coming to the fore because of the technological advancement. So the power balance will always be there. Imbalance will always be there. Riziki, Mungu anapeana. Sindio? But society should have norms in managing this. And there are norms, only that we are not really taking them into considerations. Before, yes, men used to fend for their families, and that is the patriarchal component that we want to deal with, that's coming from. In Islam, for example, the man is responsible. But if the man does not have, the woman can step in because it's a family. It's what they share. It's not a competition of power. So we have to delink this Western mindset of a competition within the family. Patience. Marriage is not all about just love. It's about respect. It's about justice. It's about understanding and being patient with each other. If these elements and virtues are removed from society, then there will be no family. You will come and see the youngsters today are not really interested in marriage. And it's because of what they are seeing happening. Why would I want to go into this suffering? I am happy. I'm okay. I have my job. I don't have to argue with anybody. So, but for our society to proceed, there must be propagation and living the next generation. But what are you living? Are you living human beings who are good citizens, or you are living human beings who are just violent and are unhealthy, have mental issues? The levels of suicide is just too many. And economic issues have always been there. But why is it now that we are unable to solve? There are inherent societal strengths that we have really pushed aside and put the economic and material issues in front. So when individuals in a family are able to sit down and have a discourse on their challenges, there will always be a solution. But when it becomes that external influences come, the social media that we have, the Western culture, even in the Western societies, families are not there. The divorce rates are very high. There is social disintegration, complete social disintegration. And the recourse is for the society to sit back and find a solution for itself. And the minds are there to find a solution. Okay. But how do you take those solutions to be accepted at the grassroots and to be everybody to be aware? And how do we mentor our youngsters? Okay. Yes, Dr. Baraza, you wanted to come.
Yeah, I think Dr. is right. Mindset. We cannot ignore the norms that we need to nurture at the family level. I just got curious. Here is this loving lady to her boyfriend of 8 years, goes to borrow money to empower her man, buy him a matatu so that you are empowered. And once she does that, she's killed. I think that is a manifestation of the power dynamics that we are having in society. We have a robust constitution and laws which now talk about gender equality. We have good laws in place, but we are not changing the norms, the attitudes, to be in tandem with the principles of equality that we are talking about. Certainly, women are very empowered now. I'm mwalimu, as you know. I teach at the law school, University of Nairobi. And our classes are almost 50-50 every intake, if not more. Girls now being like 60% to the men, and performing very well. Last year, I think we have the top 3 students graduating, 3 first class women, That is what is happening. They are very empowered. But we are not taking this empowerment to be in tandem with the social norms, the social expectations of the genders. so that the men, the boys are looking threatened. They are, you know, they are like giving up. They are not understanding the changing nature of the society that is evolving. They are seeing a competition which they are not understanding. It's a confusion. He's a man. It is supposed, men are supposed to be the powerful ones, the smarter ones, you know, but this, so I think there are so many dynamics that we need to deal with. Going to the family level, to the community level, to teach about the human value of people, not just men or girls, the human value of people, and the changing dynamics in society. And so that the old culture where it was men who were supposed to be up there, it's gone. And for men to appreciate that it is good when women are empowered, when men are empowered. What is wrong with a household, a couple, an empowered young man who is a successful lawyer, an empowered young woman who is a successful lawyer? It can only improve the family and the income. But there are those dynamics which we need to deal with.
Just to weigh on, on what Chair has said, power dynamics is a big thing. And for us to now deal with all this issue, we have to recalibrate the society. We have like to inject some dopamine, some happy hormones in how we deal with things. Because like I said earlier, it's like everybody's angry at anything. And you realize that these young men, as they grow up, nobody has retuned them to understand that they will meet empowered women who are now going to work. And for the family flock to unite and work, you need to like create a balance. You know, there are women who have a lot of energy, a lot of energy. You cannot put them in a box and they'll be happy. Their happiness is to work. You know, so if you have a woman like that, you should be the happiest, because all you need to do is give support, and vice versa, you know. So if the family flock can also be recalibrated for them to understand that when they are partners together, all your efforts brought on this table takes the family up. Look at it this way. Something happens to the man. You have forced your wife to be a housewife, no voice, no nothing. For 10 years, she's not been going to work. The day you get sick, who's gonna lift you from your seat? Who's gonna take care of the family? So I think we need to retune the society for us to balance our culture and to balance where we are right now. And if you look at the economic setup right now, you cannot burden one person. Okay. You need a concerted effort in how you carry families forward. And the support is very important. The man support the woman support the man, the two of you support your children, and they all grow up.
Is that then the case, before I come to the chairperson? Because you look at the rate of misunderstandings in family setups, as Dr. also pointed out, the evident aspect of appreciating materialism, where both genders subscribe more to money than family values and raising the kids together. The support system you talked about of each party affording the other. How can that then be equally addressed? And the fear of the westernization and adoption of the culture from the West, that we should live in certain ways to accomplish certain things at the family level.
And that goes to how our society is, how we bring up our children. For instance, if you cannot afford to take a girl out, why do you want to borrow money to take her out? So that you feel so much pain when you spend the money on her and you don't get to sleep with her. You see, if we have to deal with GBV, we have to have honest, brutal conversations. Now, you have created another layer of problems because you are not living within your means as a young man. So you want to overplease. You can do that, and then you do not have the wherewithal or the resilience or the brain muscle, you know, to control your feelings and anger. So then that takes us to the society as a whole. Are we mentoring young men to be able to meet the most difficult situations in life and for them to be able to carry problems, because life is not a happy journey all through. You will grow, you will drop, you will stagnate, you will drop, you will come up. So all these things, young men have to be coached and mentored. But again, who's the best coach and mentor for a young man? It's another man. Because the women, let me just finish this.
Finish up, please. Yeah, please.
A lot of fingers are pointed towards women and single mothers. Yeah. But the question I always ask, where is the fathers? You know? For a woman to be a single mother, there has to be a father who fathered that child. And if the fathers have decided they don't want to take care of their children, then there's already a gap. Now, this woman will take care of all her children the best way she knows. A woman cannot change herself to be a man to fit into a man's shoes. So for us to recalibrate the society, we need men mentors. We need men to stand with their children and to stand with their women. Only then can we have a full society, you know. But if a society is a pull and shove, we will always have emotional imbalances cutting across board, you know. And then we will want to enforce the laws. Remember, the law comes to punish in most cases. It doesn't solve problems. So is the police, so is the judiciary.
All right.
If you involve a third party in curating a solution within your home, you've handed over the power to make that decision to a third party. What does that do? That party is not within your inner center or fulcrum of the emotions that happen in your house. Yeah. So they'll make laws, decisions pegged on what they think, what they see, and the laws that are there. What does that mean? You have lost it. And
one final question, I'll come to you, Chairperson. Interesting, this comes from one of our followers in the discussion. In light of the economic aspect you have mentioned and also the responsibility, he asks whether women have also been trained how to handle scarcity.
Well, good question. Good question. Yeah. But again, this is what I'm saying. If you're dating a woman and you've shown that woman your value is the money you give, what have you done? What have you done? It's the society. You should be able to tell ladies that, you know what, today I'm broke. Let's just sit and watch the stars and the moon. In fact, the best dating, when I talk to our parents, there was no TV, there was no movies. They used to go to park, hold hands, talk, sit on a couch, spend their time. Your mother puts a lasso down and they talk. There was not even bread to eat in the name of picnics. But they were the happiest. Look at our grandmothers. They were their happiest. They went picking cherries in the forest and they were happy. They came out with bundles of joy. Yeah. And they brought 14 children. My grandmother had 14 children. Yeah. In fact, both sides, my mom's side and my dad's side. And they never went to school, and they were the brightest old women I have ever met.
Thank you. And
so it's the same thing.
The discussion on my earpiece, the gentleman up there who are helping me produce this show, wanasema na nikiachwa.
Well, ukiachwa kubali kuachwa, tafuta mwingine.
Yes, Chairperson. I'll come to you, Dr. Yes.
Thank you. I think the discussion is getting quite interesting because we are addressing the reality as it is. And all I can say is that I agree. So absolutely what our Waziri is saying is that, first of all, the issue about economic empowerment is an issue that we cannot run away from. It is an issue that has to be handled and handled quite well. In terms of the societal engagement and societal understanding of the fact that life doesn't have to be, you know, about material gain. And that is tied to the fact that, you know, when you look out there, it has been normalized that you have a daughter whom you are not, as a parent, you know, buying expensive items for, but you have a daughter in high school or in university driving a car with an expensive mobile, with very expensive nails, expensive hair. And as a parent, you're okay with it. You don't even question. And then the next day, you will be shocked to hear that your girl has been stabbed or your girl has been killed. So that tells us that as a parents, as a family, we are delegating, you know, our roles to social media. we are allowing our girls to copy, you know, the lifestyle from Instagram and from models or from, you know, high flyers. And the society has accepted the fact that, you know, a beauty is measured by the kind of, you know, dresses you wear, by the kind of body enhancement, you know, you've gone through, and that has to change. And the other aspect that Waziri has pointed out is the element of mentorship and fathers to be present. And, you know, before this, I was a woman leader. And one time I told my people, and especially I was talking to the female folks, and I was saying our religion allows our men to marry even up to 4 wives.
Somebody is saying amen.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the time has come now, we have to open up that space, because we are having so many single mothers, others by fault, others just because, you know, the population is such that we have more women than men. Yeah. Therefore, how do you want then these families, you know, to raise up their... So that's why I'm saying, let's allow, because our religion, so that we have fathers who are present to mentor their sons.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, Dr. Bashir, and then I go to Patricia. We sampled the feedback. I hear it's many, so that you can respond. Yeah. Yes, Doctor, you had a point before I came to the chairperson. Your hand was up?
No, my hand was not up, but let me take this opportunity to air some views. When we are dealing with a dispute in the house, and as she said, as Waziri said, when you export it to a third party, and this third party, using the legal framework that they have, dissolve this relationship, which would have been saved. Yes, the lady may have been abused, and she has been given a safe haven. What happens to the children who are left with a single parent? If it's a girl left with a father cannot take care of a girl. If it's a boy left with a mother, the mother cannot take care of only boys, because at certain age they will not be communicating. And therefore, the generations that are to come after this are going to be a disharmonious society that is going to be violent and has no value. And maybe he may be having a lot of vengeance for the father for walking away, not knowing the relationship that has happened. And therefore, even when these issues come to court, I think to salvage the integrity of the family should come top priority. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. And Patricia, given that we had talked about the numbers and the exponential growth in the numbers, and now a task force is there that has a representation across board, and then when will the conversation then flip to the other sex, which is now the male here, given the concerns that have been expressed around empowerment, the economy, and the changes in the contemporary times?
I mean, it starts with mentorship and the narrative that we're pushing to men, as both men and women. So like I said, the platforms that men are looking for mentorship, like the manospheres, as well as the women in the households. What are you encouraging men to do? If men are open enough to speak about the problems, because the main thing, the reason why the conversation has not been shifting is because just men don't talk about it. Women talk about it. So, you know, if the automatic reaction is when we talk about a real issue happening with women, the automatic reaction is what about the men? I don't think we're really talking about solving the issue here. I think we need to focus on there's a problem on both fronts. We need to mentor both men and women. Women need to let men be human and vulnerable. He cannot always be, you know, that superpower that always, you know, does whatever it is that you need him to do as a man, or what society says a man should do. And men also need to have that space to be able to protect the woman and make her feel safe, you know. So I think on both fronts, there are solutions that are needed. So let's not turn it into a whataboutism, you know, conversation. Let's just turn it into let's solve the problem on both fronts.
All right, thank you. Let's sample the feedback and give my panel the last round of comments. The hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya. And at Ayub Abdikadir. The first one from Bobo Tieno Wino. He says, I guess the task force team will also look into the issues arising on why perpetrators are committing femicide and GBV than focusing only on the victims. Just the mental aspect talked about. Consortium CBO says, now that there is a government goodwill, let all programs start at the grassroots. Town hall meetings and hotels roundtable discussions are not working. Peter Musio says, actually men do report to police, but it's never taken seriously. A guy was once asked, wewe unapigwa aje na mwanamke, in caveats, where in law is, it put that a woman is weaker and that the law protects them. Police shouldn't change attitude towards GBV on men. Bob again says the task force should look at the root cause of rising cases of GBV and femicide, but not profiling like Miss Patricia, that women are the most victims than men, because it cuts across and the divide, or else they will lose the track. Wandari James says the appointment of Nancy Barasa as the chairperson of the Anti-Femicide Commission is a good step towards ending GBV and femicide in the country. The worst part is that the largest cases of IPV, GBV, are happening at homes with non-perpetrators. Samuel says, when reflecting on femicide in Kenya, it's important to look at the grand scale of things. When we focus on observing via a gendered lens, we deny ourselves an opportunity to examine the root causes of our affliction. Engineer Lazaro says the sudden increased cases of femicide cases is now alarming and requires inclusive approach from religious leaders, government and general society. Youth employment shouldn't be restricted to one gender affair. DCI should be more active. Frank says that the task force on femicide is a critical step in tackling rising cases of GBV. The task force must investigate the patterns and root causes of femicide, engage stakeholders, recommend legal and policy reforms to enhance justice for victims and ensure accountability. Talai_Kilel says gender-based violence isn't just a women's issue, it's a human rights issue. It's time we all stand together to create a safer world for everyone. Sir Nixon says the final one, femicide as well as infanticide should be treated as terrorism, where capital punishment should be administered to offenders without a second thought. Some of the many that you have sent us in here. Dr. Baraza, I'll begin with you around final comments.
Thank you very much. I think we are at a stage where, as a country, we want to hold a conversation. And I like the comments that are coming in. This is the beginning of a national conversation, of our collective action to finding solutions to this deep-rooted problem. So we expect Kenyans to participate. Take it as your own process. Tell us where and what we should do as the comments are coming out. Okay. And we shall deal with it as a societal problem in the manner in which our TORs mandate us to do. And of course, we are not just going to focus on victims. Okay. We are going to look at perpetrators. We'll go to the jails. We'll go to where to find out exactly what is going on. So I like the conversation. It is your conversation. It is our collective effort as a country to address these menace.
Thank you. Yes, Chairperson.
Thank you so much. I also want to thank you and the feedback. It's quite exciting that Kenyans already have a solution. Mine is just to add that let us all be accountable. Let us strengthen the legal framework. Let us come up with a gender-sensitive intervention. I want to confirm that currently we are having six courts tackling the gender-based violence. I think the more courts we have, the better, to ensure that these matters get adequate turnaround time, so that we don't then lose what Patricia said, in the process of collecting evidences, then we'll end up losing. And then finally, I think we should come up with a specific intervention to cater and support the survivors, create more safe spaces. Now that from the report, we are seeing that our normal safe spaces, the homes, are no longer safe. So let's have more safe spaces for the victim.
Yes, Harriet, briefly.
Mine first is to thank the President for putting this committee in place. We feel relieved that the team is ready and willing to move. I also wish to thank Kenyans because they have embraced the team and they are already giving the solutions and the work that they expect the task force to deliver. So that is a very positive thing. And the media for advancing and being the voice for victims, for even inviting us to talk about these issues, spotlighting, highlighting. And I wish to say we really, really rely on the members of the Fourth Estate, Abdulkadir and your team. And I want to laud you for the work you have done for the last 4 months on this issue of GBV and femicide. To the committee, I think, and the government at large, I think we have issues to do with legal aid. And you've seen Kenyans have already put it across, issues to do with access to justice. How do we make the wheels of justice faster, especially where women and children, no matter GBV and femicide are involved? He for she, men standing for women, very important. The judiciary, the police needs to actually advance their presence and to safeguard the spaces and ensure that every Kenyan is safe. And then we have issues to do now with investing in safe society. Okay. How do we make this society safe for everyone? Okay. Abdulkadir, I always tell my team, even in the office, when you wake up, say hello to the watchman at the gate. Okay. Give your colleague a cup of tea. Let us spread a more positive environment. Thank you. Other than the negative environment that we all stand on. Thank you very much.
Yes, Dr. Ali.
Thank you, Ayub. First of all, I want to mention that health comes at tail end of events. That we are supposed to provide the care after the issue has happened. Mm-hmm. And therefore, I want to thank the President again for providing the leadership. And I also want to appreciate that this is the first agenda that has been non-political. And across all political divides, the Kenyans are supporting. We have been given the platform to interact and find solutions and recommend to the President and to the country. So, and we have realized that the root causes are much complex than finger-pointing. Finger-pointing at the police, finger-pointing at the women or empowered women, it's not going to solve our problems. We take it as a societal issue, and we go through all the stakeholders that are to deal with this and get the solutions on the table.
Thank you. Patricia, under 10 seconds.
Right. The patterns in the data are clear towards some of the actions that we need to take moving forward. Mentorship of men and women. Let's engage the schools, the churches, the families in spreading the narrative of exit a dangerous situation the moment you see it, provide a safe place for them to go once they exit that situation, empower the police and direct them so that they can be able to handle these cases better, and enable the judiciary to be able to close these cases faster, because the average of cases being closed in 4 years is too long of a time to get justice.
Thank you. Your time is all appreciated. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Bashir Ahmed is from the Ministry of Health, a member of the task force of the GBV task force, which was formed and chaired by Dr. Nancy Baraza, who is with us in studio this morning, as well as the Presidential Advisor on Women's Rights, Harriet Chigai, and the Chairperson of the National Gender and Equality Commission, Rehema Jaldesa, and Patricia Ndago is a researcher who joined us virtually for this broadcast. Many thanks for your time, ladies and gentlemen. And Dr. Baraza, one of the foremost women who led Europe in times of the pandemic and the migration crisis was Angela Merkel, and Europe certainly misses her today. But there's one word she said when the continent grappled with the immigration. She said, "Wir schaffen das." Yes, we can. Yes, you can. Yes, we can. Thank you. Health and Lifestyle is up next with Safina Chiengo, and I'll see you tomorrow morning here on the State of the Nation. Till then, good morning.